Welcome to the Temporary Space Show, episode 22. I am your host with the most, Jim Lettuce, head of Temporary Space Studios. I haven't done an episode in like 3 years, and I always say this, if I'm going to quit something, I will make some kind of announcement or video saying I quit. That goes for YouTube, the podcast, anything. So if I haven't done an episode in a while, that means I'll do one eventually. So I got a list of stuff to talk about here. This is a show about technology and entertainment. So this is a show about technology and entertainment and when they collide. It's also a reason for me to rant and rave about stuff that I just want to talk about, and I know my friends don't want to listen to me talk about it, so I do it here on the podcast. So the first thing I want to talk about is I finally saw Black Adam. You know, the movie with The Rock, the one that was supposed to save the DC cinematic universe, which has since been killed off because James Gunn took over. The guy who did, what did he do? Suicide Squad? He did something. I can't remember. No, Guardians of the Galaxy. That's what it is. I know those are different, but I mixed them up because I don't remember who did the other one, but oh no, it's because he did the second Suicide Squad movie. That's why I always get it confused. But basically, this was supposed to be the saving grace for the DC cinematic universe, and The Rock, with all of his Hollywood clout, was supposed to save it. And when the movie came out, I heard it was terrible. I heard it was just awful, and so I never saw it in theaters. But as of now, I have my Amazon Prime account. I'm thinking about canceling it, but we'll get into that on another episode. But, I was on my break at work, and I was scrolling through something to watch, and I thought, well, shoot, I'll watch this Black Adam movie. How bad could it be? And to be honest with you, it really wasn't that bad. I mean, it wasn't great. The production value was off the charts. The cinematography is really, really good, actually. Everybody in the movie looks great, especially I thought it was his love interest, but it's really just this lady that looks like his dead wife. There doesn't seem to be any romance between them, and they're definitely not making a sequel to see if that goes anywhere. But everybody looks great. It reminded me of a Michael Bay movie where everyone's like 20-something and they're all tan and glistening, and it's like sunset golden hour the whole time. Now, this movie didn't have that, but it reminded me of that. Just this unrealistic level of attractiveness among everybody on screen, except for a few people. And I thought it was great. I loved it. The writing is, it is what it is. It's a very safe, they call it, it's like a corporate sanitized movie, nothing controversial, nothing bad. It's super safe, and I liked it though. It was really pretty good. So it starts out with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and there's a few flashbacks. He's basically, if you don't know who Black Adam is, there's Shazam, which they made a couple of movies, and it's usually a kid. There's different renditions, but it's basically a kid who says the word Shazam, and lightning strikes him, and then he becomes basically the powers of Superman. There's a lot of arguments about, is Superman stronger than Shazam? I believe Superman would win in a fight because Superman is a grown adult who's like 35, 40 years old or whatever. And Shazam is a kid with, immature emotions, and he doesn't have the fighting experience that Superman has. So he might be on par with strength and speed of Superman, but I believe he would lose a fight for sure. But Black Adam is kind of a foil to Shazam. I think Black Adam was actually supposed to be a villain. So I don't read the comics. I'm going by all these DC animated movies. Here, let's see. Is Black Adam a villain? I think he's mostly a super villain, but he's kind of a, what's the word? Like a dark hero, an anti-hero lately. But he's supposed to be the foil to Shazam. But it's The Rock, so he's painted as a good guy. Here, let's pull up the Wikipedia. Wikipedia, oh, leave me alone, Wikipedia. Nobody's going to pay for you, Wikipedia, okay? You started out free. You can't suddenly charge money, okay? That's why our streaming service was not free to begin with. We might raise the price or lower it, but it didn't start as free, okay? Black Adam, originally depicted as a supervillain. Oh, and by the way, Shazam isn't really the name of the superhero. It's the name of the wizard that gives him his powers. And it's kind of like a chosen one thing. Shazam decides whether or not you're worthy. Kind of like Mjolnir, the hammer that Thor wields. But it starts out with a flashback. And his name isn't even Shazam. His name is something else. His name's not Black Adam. His name is Teth Adam. And he decides to help out like this leader. You know, this oppressed people. And he decides to help this leader, but then the leader betrays him. And I don't even remember that well. I watched it a few weeks ago, but long story short, his wife and his kid get killed. And in a very smart move, they don't give it all away in the beginning. They do what a lot of movies do nowadays, where they show you the flashback in pieces. And, you know, it kind of breaks that save the cat rule from that book. If a flashback is really that important, you should just do it at the beginning. But I liked the slow reveal of who he is and how he actually got the powers. Because later on in the movie, spoiler alert, if you don't want to know about this kind of crappy, well, like I said, I liked it, but it's kind of a crappy movie that came out a year or two ago. So if you don't want to know the spoilers, fast forward. But you find out later that it was actually his son that got the powers, because he was worthy, like Shazam style. But he decides to give his powers to his dad because his dad is like more oppressed somehow. And so as soon as he gets the powers, then his son and his wife get killed by whatever the king was in charge. He's evil. And so he kills them. And so then Black Adam gets all butthurt, which I would too. But he gets all mad, and then he becomes this evil leader. But then, like, during the movie, there's a statue of him in this city that they're in. I don't remember the name of the city. Let's see if the Wikipedia has it. It's supposed to be an ancient Egyptian city. In the movie, they actually say the name of the city. But there's a statue, and the whole time, so like the point of view character is this kid and his mom. And his mom is like this like archaeological, some kind of archaeologist lady. And she's helping this like mercenary group dig up some kind of artifact. And of course, the artifact is Black Adam's tombstone or his grave. He's like encased in it. You know how these things are. They don't actually die. They're just frozen somehow in some ancient temple. And so the mom is helping these mercenaries. But then when Black Adam, you know, awakens, he kills all the mercenaries in this really badass way. Because he's basically Superman. He can fly. And he has super strength. But he also has like electricity power. Kind of like Raiden. So, that's cool. I liked it. The teaser for the movie shows this scene. He like grabs this dude by the throat and just like electrocutes him into like a charred piece of meat. And it was cool. And, The Rock's kind of confused about who he is in the movie for a while. And so there's the kid and the mom. And the kid is like this, he skateboards and, it's kind of corny. but the mom lives with her brother, I guess. And the exposition of the movie is that the kid's dad died or something. I don't know if it was because he was a mercenary too, but basically Black Adam appears and he's like slowly realizing, oh, my family's dead. It's been like 1,000 years. And the whole point of the movie is that he should be a savior, and he's got this like dark past that they don't really know about yet. But there's this nice moment with the kid where he's making the kid, like the kid is like, oh, you gotta have a catchphrase, and you gotta wear a cool suit. And maybe a few years ago I would have thought this was stupid, but to be honest, like the last few movies coming out in the last year or two are so bad, especially the Marvel ones, that this was nice, refreshing. You know, there wasn't too much politics. There's a little bit, but not much. And it was just a nice little, oh, this is a fun little movie. So think of it like an airplane movie or a Redbox movie. Like, don't expect too much. You know, like, it's pretty enjoyable. So then he figures out that they figured out that there's this like crown that they have to get. And the crown, it's called the Crown of Amun-Ra or something, I don't know. And the whole time, the mercenaries, they're looking for that crown. And they didn't realize that the clever mom had actually found it during all the commotion of Black Adam waking up and killing the mercenaries. So she had the crown, and she gave it to the son. And then the son, you know, he skateboards and he's all cool. The son hid it in his backpack, and the mercenary finds out. And I think the mercenary was like dating the mom. There's definitely a weird thing going on. I can't remember, but he's like a friend of the family. So he was acting all... He might be like his second cousin or something like that. I don't really remember. But he seemed to be oddly familiar with the family. More than just some random mercenary that was, you know, hired them for a job. So there's this cool chase scene where the mercenaries figure out that they do have the crown. So then they go back to the house or the apartment or wherever they live. And of course, Black Adam realizes the kid is in danger and he's got to save him. And they have a really cool scene where he's like chasing all these dudes on these like air bikes, kind of like the first Avengers movie. And I forgot a big part of this, but I wanted to do it later. I want to talk about the different heroes that are featured in this, because this was supposed to be kind of like a mini team-up movie where they introduce other ones. Dr. Fate, Hawkman, or whatever his name is, and I want to say Atom Smasher, but that's the... let's look it up. All the characters in the Black Adam movie. Alright, it's Black Adam, obviously. Dr. Fate, played by Pierce Brosnan. Let's go through these. I want to talk about these. Oh, it is Atom Smasher, but it's spelled differently. And in the movie, he's the guy that inherited his dad's powers. So his name's not actually Adam. It's something else. And then, where's the kid? Or there's the girl in there who's like... Oh, there it is. Cyclone. She was interesting. I've never heard of Cyclone before. Let's see, we got Dr. Fate, who... Let's pull him up on Wikipedia. The whole thing is he's got this helmet, and when he puts it on, he transforms into Dr. Fate. And he can kind of tell the future, but not really. Because if you have a character that can tell the future, you kind of ruin your movie, because then why don't they just give everybody the answers? So he's got this, like, reluctance to tell people what's going to happen. And then, let's pull up Hawkman. What is his name? Yeah, oh, Hawkman. That's exactly what it is. Now, I only know about Hawkman because there's Hawk Girl, and she was in those movies, like some of those DC animated movies. That was my first introduction to Hawkman. He has wings. I don't know if he can remove them or not, but in the movie, they would appear when he transforms. So maybe it's kind of like a Dr. Fate situation where he like you know, a lot of these characters transform, which is very much like Shazam. So I thought that was cool. That must be why they're all teamed up. Hawkman is kind of the leader of this little mini Avengers group, or Justice League or whatever. They reference the Justice League because remember, Justice League is DC, Avengers is Marvel. But Hawkman is the de facto leader of this little group. And then Dr. Fate, we already went over him. We got Atom Smasher. Let's talk about Cyclone. We'll do Atom Smasher after this. But Cyclone is this girl who can like spin really fast and like she has wind powers, I guess. It doesn't say on Wikipedia exactly what her powers are. Let's see if I can Control F. Powers. Oh, nanobites? So it's like a technological thing? I thought it was like a magical thing. So it's definitely tornado wind power stuff. So she was spinning around. She was pretty cool. And then let's go to Atom Smasher. Where is... I got a million tabs open. Where is... Come on. Atom Smash. No. It's Atom with a T. Because it's more like an Ant-Man. This is basically the DC version of Ant-Man. I don't know which one came first. But he can grow real big. And he has super strength as a result of that. He doesn't seem to be able to grow small like Ant-Man. Ant-Man can grow big and small. Where this guy seems to just grow big. But they had a nice dynamic where him and the Tornado Girl, Cyclone, are like the newbies of the group. They're like the kids. And so they kind of like each other and they can relate to each other because they're new. And the Atom Smasher guy was kind of nervous. Whoever played him was pretty good, though. He wasn't the greatest actor, but he was real good looking. They should put him in more movies. Like, I don't know if he could carry his own movie, but I hope he makes an appearance in, like, if they do any more of these DC movies with that character. Again, we'll have to refer to James Gunn. I don't know how big it's going. But, so that's the little group, and they show up, and they're there to, you know, there's some kind of power surge with Black Adam's appearance. And so they're there to basically, like, figure out what's going on Justice League style and stop it. And so Hawkman especially butts heads with Black Adam. And going into it, they know who Black Adam is. They're like, we know who Black Adam is. We got to stop him and put him back into, you know, being asleep. And at one point during the movie, they do put him back in. But it's only because Black Adam volunteers. Because, again, he's like Superman. Like, they only captured him because he let him. Kind of like when Superman let him in the Henry Cavill Superman Man of Steel when he goes to the police station. He's doing it as a courtesy. He could easily break out at any moment. But he doesn't because he's a good guy. And Black Adam is a good guy. But basically the mercenaries steal the crown, but the bad guy mercenary kidnaps the kid. And they have this showdown where they're like, give us the crown and we'll give you the kid back. And finally, the mom secretly brought the crown to trade for the kid because, you know, it's her. She's a mom. She's got to protect her babies. You know, this is a universal thing. Animals, bears do this and stuff. And there's this cool moment where Black Adam is like rushing to punch and kill the guy because they have this weird like force field up. And they turned it off so that they can make the trade. And then, you know, the kid is like running to his mom. And it was a good, you know, high climax moment. And of course, Black Adam has to save the day. Like towards the end of the movie, they have another big fight where it's basically when the mercenary gets the crown. It's kind of like that movie Spawn where he's talking to some devil demon type dude in a different dimension. And as soon as he gets that crown, the demon like makes him into that. Let's see who was the villain in Black Adam. I can't remember his name. Sabak. That's what it was. Sabak. He actually looked really cool. Sabak Wikipedia. Let's look it up. His rendition in the movie was actually really dope. Again, the special effects in this movie are so good. But he's basically an evil demon type dude. He's depicted as a dark opposite to the Marvel's Captain Marvel. Okay, so he's like an evil Captain Marvel, that kind of stuff. You know, he had demon powers. And the fight between him and Black Adam was pretty sweet. All the other mini Justice League people, they couldn't really fight this guy. They kind of had to do damage control while Black Adam battled him. But overall, my review was that this movie was pretty dope. Definitely worth a watch. It's worth a $15 sign up for Amazon Prime just to watch it and then cancel later. There's other stuff on Amazon Prime, so, you know, it's not a complete waste. And that's my review of Black Adam. I did not mean to talk about it that long, but, you know, it's a podcast, so what are you going to do? So now I want to talk about my Apple computer. So I recently switched. By recently, I mean like 8 months ago. I finally switched to Apple. I was a Windows guy for so long. I would always talk smack about Apple, but I decided to switch for 2 reasons. Number one, I couldn't get a PC good enough that would do what I want that wasn't under like $1,200. And number two, I got so sick of the stupid Windows updates. And every time there's an update, I had to get on Reddit and try to figure out how to fix some weird thing that would stop working in Windows. And then the Mac Mini M2 came out. So I want to talk about the M2 chip and all that, and the M chip, the Apple chip. But I switched to Apple and I got the Mac Mini, which is basically the cheapest Apple computer you can get. It's literally just like it looks like a little sling box and like a router or something. And you have to plug in your own keyboard and your own monitor. But I thought, well, shoot, this new M chip is supposed to be so good. And it was like $600. And I already have a monitor and a keyboard. And I thought, oh yeah, you have to have your own mouse. But I thought, well, shoot, this might be worth it. And I want to do video editing and stuff. And I'm recording this on my Mac Mini. And it turns out I made a good move because it does do video editing. To get a Windows computer, a PC that will do 4K video editing, you're going to spend $1,500. And then, you know, you have to get like water cooling because the fan will be super loud. And, so I switched, right? But I want to talk about the Mac chip, or the Apple M chip. This is a huge deal in the computer world because for the longest time, like Windows, like Microsoft or whatever, well, because PC isn't really one company, but the point is, Apple always had to use another company to make their processors. I'm pretty sure it was Intel. Let's see, let's look it up. Yeah, it's Intel. So for a long time, like years and years, decades, they were using Intel to make their processors because Apple didn't make their own processors. If you don't know what a processor is, it's the brain of the computer. It's like the main organ. And, well, not really. I wouldn't say it's the heart. It's the brain, okay? And Apple made a forward-thinking move and said, you know what? We always got to pay for this stuff. Let's just make our own processor. But the type of processor they use is very important. So it's called a ARM processor. And ARM is an actual company, but it's kind of synonymous with a type of processor where processors used to have like pieces. It was like, here's the brain, and then here's the RAM. And it was like separate pieces that would talk to each other, and there was a lot of bottleneck issues that would occur because of that. But these new ARM type processors, it's basically like a flash drive. It's the whole thing is just one big chip. The benefits of this is synergy and low power usage. So what that means to regular people is that they can have a chip that uses way less power, but can also, like, it's a power efficient. The power efficiency is off the charts, so they can do anything they want now. It's kind of crazy. And when the first Apple M chips came out, people were video editing 4K videos with just a regular processor. You don't have to have this crazy, GTX graphics card plugged in, or RTX or whatever, the NVIDIA ones. You don't have to do that. It's all one chip. And a lot of people were haters because it was basically what they did with the iPads first. And people said, oh man, it's a silly iPad processor in here. But it turns out it really does work. The power efficiency of the low power means that when they scale it up, it can do crazy things, and it doesn't even need a fan. Well, that's a misnomer. It needs a fan, but the Mac Mini operates without a fan, and I haven't even had it overheat ever. In fact, when we had this crazy heat wave over the summer, and it was like 110 plus degrees, and our air conditioning went out, I was still able to turn on the computer and use it. Of course, it was hot to the touch, like you're cooking on a stove, but it didn't fail. It didn't give me any messages about overheating. It's crazy. And like I said, it's actually working. I just edited and uploaded a 4K vlog, and it actually works. It's crazy. So I didn't actually buy it until the M2 chip. The M1, M2, obviously, is the second iteration. When companies make these new chips, the next generation is usually way more efficient. And I bring this up because they just had the M3 chip. It's the third rendition of it. Apple M3 chip is really good. A lot of people are complaining that it's not that much more powerful than the 2, but the reason I bought the 2 is because I never got the 1. I wasn't comparing it to an M1. I was comparing it to the crappy Intel processor that my PC had. And so I don't know if the M3 is really that much better. Let's see. I'm asking the wrong questions here. Is the Apple M3 much better than the M2? What's the percentage here? We need like is it 20% better? Is it... You can watch the Apple... Here we go. Thanks to MacRumors.com, it is 8% better than the M2. Not really worth an upgrade if you already have the M2 like me, but when this computer starts to crap out after a few years, because they all do that, I probably will get whatever M4 computer I can get. I kind of wish I had the Mac Studio, which is like a beefy version of the Mac Mini, but it wasn't cheap. It wasn't $600. It was like $1,500 or whatever, which is actually a good deal because it's better than a $1,500 PC computer. But basically the gist of this section is that the Mac Mini, after 6+ months, it has its issues. It does have updates that mess it up a little. It does start to lag if you fill up the hard drive, because I got the smallest hard drive, which is like 150 gigabytes or something, which is nothing these days. But, these SSDs, external ones, are pretty cheap now. And all in all, I would say that it's still better than a Windows computer for the same price. I mean, if you get a $600 Windows computer, it's going to be super crappy. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is Best Buy. They've decided that they are not going to sell DVDs. And well, they don't really sell DVDs anymore that much, I don't think. but they're not going to sell Blu-rays anymore. Let me pull up whatever article it was. I don't know if I have it. I'm not selling Blu-rays. They're fully, you know, giving into this future where everything is streaming. And I am a filmmaker. I do like the idea of having it where you own it. So I am sad because this is kind of a big deal, because Best Buy and Movie Trading Company, that's really the only place you can buy Blu-rays now, right? You can get them on Amazon, but I think they're used on Amazon. Unless there's specific retailers. And this is an issue with filmmakers because Christopher Nolan, the guy who did the Batman movies, he just had a new movie come out that was called Oppenheimer, about the guy that invented the atomic bomb. And my mini review is that movie sucked because it was too boring. But I digress. He came out and was like, buy the Blu-ray, please, because it's going to be on streaming, and these streaming companies are just going to do whatever they want with the movies. Because, see, the problem with streaming and downloading digitally is these companies can do whatever they want. 5 years later, they can say, oh, we're going to remove this from the list, and you paid for it, you don't get a refund. PlayStation Network is actually doing that now. For me personally, I care to a point, but I'm lazy, and I don't want to have a billion DVD cases and video game cases all over the house. So I have embraced digital. I download digital games for the last 5 years. I haven't bought a game physical, and it is what it is. You know, I like the convenience of it, but there are drawbacks. Like when I'm watching movies on Netflix or Amazon Prime or Max, sometimes the quality goes to crap, and I really wish I could, you know, just watch the Blu-ray. When we were reviewing a movie for our Netflix podcast, check out that. There's a link below. That's not really related to TemporarySpaceStudios, but I do it with my buddy Miles. But we reviewed a movie recently that was on Netflix, but I have the Blu-ray. And halfway through, I got so frustrated with the crappy quality that I said, screw it, and I just put in the Blu-ray. So this is definitely a big turning point for Best Buy removing DVDs and Blu-rays. It is a sad and scary future where you can't just own your movie. So I don't know what to do about it. I mean, I guess you could just hoard Blu-rays, but I don't know if that's going to do anything for you, but, you know, it is what it is. All right, next I want to talk about Lujan. Have y'all heard of Lujan? Lujan is this, what do you call her? She's like an influencer, right? But she's a very interesting character because, you know, politics is involved in this, right? So she's an influencer, but she's an army influencer, which basically means she's a sponsored plant, for a better lack of the word. See, in the music industry, they call it an industry plant, where they get some artist who's been signed to a record label who goes on SoundCloud like they're an amateur, but they're actually backed by a giant record label. And a lot of the purists say, oh, they're an industry plant. I'm a businessman, so I don't necessarily think it's morally bad to do that, because it's an interesting financial move. A lot of times it never works, but this is the kind of thing that's happening with influencers, where these big companies will back an influencer. And what's interesting about this one is that she is backed by the American Army. I don't know if it's actually official, but it's a little bit under the table. But she's basically promoting the military, and I think it's hilarious because she's kind of got this Belle Delphine thing going on, where she's super hot, but she's also very aware, and she's also very self-aware with the memes and stuff. But she's kind of, it's not so much a secret. She's openly promoting the military, and what's funny about it is that it's kind of working. So a lot of people were mad about it. That's how I found out about it. They're mad that she's promoting the military, and with the way the world is now, things might get tricky in the next few years. We might actually have a war, and so the army's like, oh gosh, we gotta recruit people. How do we do it? Because the recruitment is really low, and that's a whole nother issue. But how else would you recruit people by getting a hot waifu, right? And she sure is a hot waifu. There's pictures of her like talking about equipment, but she also is like wearing a low-cut dress, and I just think it's absolute genius marketing. You know what I mean? Like, it's totally working. Obviously, I'm talking about it, and I'm interested to see where this goes. Interested to see if she actually does anything significant. I think she actually is in the army. I think it was one of those things where she was already in the army and did Instagram type stuff, and then someone at the top was like, hey, let's just recruit her to make our propaganda for me. And look, I'm reading the comments. People are like, oh, this is right-wing propaganda, blah blah blah. But like I said, she's like Belle Delphine. She leans into the memes. So her hashtag is literally PSYOP. That's psychological operation, which means, like the CIA, the FBI, and the NSA, they'll do stuff to manipulate the public. And, you could argue a lot of our media is already doing that. But it's just very interesting development. Also, she's super hot. She can't be older than like 20-something. You got to be 18 to join the military in America. And she's got all the right pictures. Like, she's in a bikini laying down, but she's got a gun. And she's got like the army, helicopter pilot. And she's making jokes about controlling a tank. And so look her up. It's just Google Lujan. It's Lujan, and it's great. I love it. I want more of it. I don't care that it's propaganda. I'm actually I like propaganda in that it's a very efficient way to do things. Who is she? She's taking pictures with famous people. She's taking pictures with one of the Trump sons, to really rile up the haters. And it's just, oh, here's a comment. Not a fed, just a slut in camo. See, these hate comments are working. They're promoting her, and the goal is to promote the military, I guess. Like, she's got, I wish I could, I don't really want to go through the trouble to put these pictures on the video, but like there's one where she's posing like waifu style on a gun range. It's just, God, it's just genius. Genius marketing right here. I admire the marketing. Also, did I mention she's super hot? Well, that's all. I just wanted to talk about that. I'm very just impressed with the 4D chess they're playing there. So now, since we're talking about the media, and let's talk about Hollywood. I want to talk about the Hollywood strike. Now, as of now, I think it's actually over? Let me see. Let me pull it up. Let's see. Last I heard, they made some kind of negotiation to start doing things again. So they're not on strike. There we go. Is the Hollywood strike over? September 27th it ended. Really? I thought it ended like last month. Like October or something. This must be weird internet hallucinations. ChatGPT hallucinations. But, so, there was a big writer's strike when I was like high school, college, when that new James Bond came out with Daniel Craig, and it wasn't his first one, it was like the second or third movie, and it was notoriously bad because the writers were on strike. Like most unions, they go on strike because they don't think their workers are getting properly I'm having a brain fart. They're not getting properly compromised. No, that's not it. Compensated. I almost said constipated. They're not getting properly compensated, and that's pretty much what unions are for, is to fight for workers' rights, right? But this strike was different because it was the writers first, right? And there's a joke in Hollywood that nobody cares about the writers because they don't have that much power. Maybe nowadays they have a little more, but it's kind of true. They don't have that much power. So nobody really gave a crap about the writer's strike, but the actors went on strike. And when actors go on strike, everybody loses their mind because we treat celebrities like gods here in America. And if you watch Team America World Police, there's an organization called the Film Actors Guild, and they make fun of this very thing because a lot of actors, they get rich, they start getting political, a la Sean Penn, and Sean Penn's still making that joke work. He's doing more political activism right now, but it was just interesting that no one gave a crap until the actors got involved, and then suddenly we're all talking about the strike. But the main point of the strike was that they wanted to be properly compensated for streaming, because the big studios, once streaming started happening, it's a business move. They're not going to cut you in to what you deserve until you demand it or take legal action. And that gets into business ethics. I don't know if it's necessarily morally bad. It's a business thing. You know, I'm not too into like the business ethics thing, but it's a conundrum where, you know, morally it's a bit of a gray area because I believe everyone should be properly compensated, but in business it's like, well, they haven't demanded it yet, and unless it hurts our brand and it hurts our bottom line, we're not going to do anything. But it started to hurt their bottom line because suddenly, you know, when they go on strike, they can't promote movies, they can't film movies, and you end up with producers trying to write scripts. That's why the James Bond Quantum of Solace movie, the second one he did, was so bad, because some producer who's not in the Writers Guild had to write the script. So it was terrible. And so that also means in a year or two, we're going to see movies and shows that were made during the strike that are going to be really bad. It's a very delayed effect, but apparently they came to some kind of agreement. They had one agreement and then it fell through. Then they made another one, and a lot of people are promoting stuff again, so I guess it's over. But I want to talk about this because it allowed regular creators, people like me, even though I'm not that big of a deal, but these podcasters online, especially during the pandemic, when Hollywood was, you know, masking up and it was really hard to produce stuff. I don't know if you remember, Tom Cruise had audio leak where he was yelling at everybody during the Mission Impossible set because he was like, we're going to get shut down. And it's just really interesting how this huge void in the market appeared because of the pandemic and then this strike. And so all these podcasters, especially comedians with podcasts, they grew and grew. And, you know, Hollywood, American Hollywood, is just losing their market share more and more. And now lately, the last, 4 or 5 years, there's so much politics in their movies that, like, they're really not as big a deal as they used to be, you know? I think that era of American Hollywood movies dominating popular culture in the world, I think it's over. And I'm really sad because that's why I got into filmmaking, because when I was a kid, movies were a big deal. And movies would come out and most of them were good. Nowadays, you have a really good movie once every few years, and it's just very interesting development. So it's exciting to see who's going to grow. Like, South Korea is getting really big, and India is getting really big with the movie business. And, like, these Bollywood movies are taking over. These South Korean, they're like romance shows. They call it K-dramas. And they're just taking over. Netflix is a big part of that because Netflix is the only major studio slash streaming service that's actually promoting and putting up money to make these things. There's a lot of these Netflix originals that are K-dramas that Netflix put up the money for. It's an American company paying for these South Korean movies. And, you know, as a businessman, I love all the, you know, all the capital that is growing out of this. So it's very interesting, but also bittersweet, because as an American, I'm sad that the American movies just aren't what they used to be, you know? All right, let's go to the next one. So I said the Trump sons earlier. I forgot that this is in here. Ivanka Trump, she is the... It's not Trump's wife, right? Isn't it Trump's, like, daughter? Hold on. She was in a picture. I'm only bringing this up, not politically, just I saw a picture of her at a water park, and she was looking so hot. And I thought, dang, how is she still so hot? How old is she? Let's see. Let's see what her age is. Because she's also such a big public figure, you know? Minus the politics, like, just bringing it up, like, dang, she's super hot. It won't tell me her age. Is this like a... Oh, 42, okay. Yeah, she looks really hot for 42. Even just hot in general. Let's see if I can find the water park. Because, you know, needless to say, that family is not super looked at in a positive way these days. So there's always these articles that come out talking smack about them. And it's like, they had this article of her at a water park, but you can't really talk smack about her too much. She looks super hot. She's 42. And let me read my note, because I make notes for the podcast, you know, throughout the month. And I put, she's still hot. How old is she again? So I just wanted to point out that Ivanka Trump at 42 is like super hot. And I'm looking at older pictures of her, and she looks old. I don't understand. Did she find the fountain of youth? Is she using the what's that conspiracy theory? The blood of the youth? Is she like using, you know, child blood to stay young? Because there's no way she doesn't look 42 at all. She looks like 33 or something. That's crazy. And she's had like 5-6 kids. Like, wow, man, that's just... She got lucky in the gene pool with that one. All right, now, speaking of politics, this is a bit more political, but again, this isn't really a political podcast. I want to talk about Squid Game. Now, this is a very good example of life imitating art. So if you're not familiar with Squid Game was a hugely popular show that came out on Netflix a year or two ago. And it was basically a social commentary on the way the world is now, how it's getting harder and harder for people to afford things, and they're doing crazier and crazier things to pay for stuff. It's also a jab at capitalism, because a lot of people are hating on capitalism these days, and it's sad to see, because I'm actually a fan of capitalism. But that's what Squid Game was. It was these people who are so desperate for money that they'll go on this game show and risk their life. And in the world of Squid Game, the game show is like dangerous. You can die, and it's kind of like Hunger Games. Hunger Games is also the same type of thing, where the way the world is, the rich are rich and the poor are poorer, and so they have these game shows where people compete and get hurt or die just to have enough money to live. And all the rich people with their weird, ugly clothes, they watch it. And then all the poor people watch it too. And Hunger Games is different because you get picked like in a lottery. Like, you don't really want to do it per se because you can die. Whereas Squid Game is more dark in that it preys on people who need money and they volunteer. So the first scene of the show is, now again, I haven't watched it. I've just watched a lot of clips and reviews. But in the beginning of the show, the main character is like down on his luck, and he's lost his job, and he's all dirty, and he sees his old buddy from high school or something, and his buddy is like, if you let me pay you $1,000, I'll let me slap you in the face really hard. And he reluctantly agrees, and they do this a few times, and he ends up paying him like $5,000, and he just beats the crap out of him. And he looks at me and says, if there's more where that came from, here's my card. And the guy's like a producer of the Squid Game. And so they compete, and they have these weird masks, which was good branding on whoever made the show. The iconic masks and like the colorful jumpsuits. That's just good way to market your show or movie if you have an iconic thing. Like remember Kill Bill? She was wearing the Bruce Lee thing. Like, that was a good move because people see that and they think Kill Bill. They don't even think about Bruce Lee anymore. They think, oh, that's Kill Bill. Like when other people have the Bruce Lee outfit, they say, oh, that's a Kill Bill outfit. They don't say the Bruce Lee outfit. I only say that because I'm older and I remember watching that movie. Now, I'm not that old. I wasn't alive when the movie came out. It's called Game of Death. But it's a famous Bruce Lee movie. I think it's the last movie he did before he died. They didn't even finish it. But the reason I bring this up is because they started a Squid Game actual reality show on Netflix. So I'm not talking about the show that has like a script and characters and a narrative. I'm talking an actual game show called Squid Game. And part of the reason they did it is to capitalize on the Squid Game hype, but also Mr. Beast, that popular YouTuber, he did his own Squid Game thing and it got 1 billion views. So the Netflix wigs were like, oh, let's just do that. And it's hilarious because it turned into the actual Squid Game. This big scandal came out where all the competitors talked about the horrible conditions they were in during the Squid Game show. It's just like the TV show Squid Game, where these people who are desperate for money in our economy volunteer for something, and it's really horrible conditions, and I don't think anybody died. It's called Squid Game Challenge. Horrible conditions. I'm trying to Google it here. People suffered injuries such as hypothermia and nerve damage while filming the red light, green light game, which is, it's an old game we used to play when we were kids where somebody closes their eyes and they turn around and then there's like a bunch of people in a group like 30 feet behind them and they try to run towards the person who's not looking. And when the person is not looking, they say red light, and then they say green light and turn around. And if you're running when they say green light, then you get eliminated. And the trick is to get closer and closer to them and touch their shoulder, and then you win the game. And this was one of the main things they had on the Mr. Beast Squid Games. And it's so fitting and hilarious that this is where all the injuries and the horrible working conditions happened on the actual Squid Game Challenge game. It was during red light, green light. So let's pull it up. Let's look at the details here. They said it was torture because they had to like stand there. Because when you're filming like anything, there's a saying, they say hurry up and wait, because you got to wait for them to put the lights up and the microphones. And then when you're doing a game show, it's even more so. And so these people are they said my feet were numb, my hands were blue, constant snot. So they were in like below freezing conditions, and they were just standing on these platforms, I guess. But I just think it's hilarious that, you know, life imitates art. In the art, these people in the show were so desperate they'd compete in this awful show, and then now they end up doing it anyways. It's hilarious. What else? Let's go to the next one. I want to talk about Young Thug, the rapper. He's still in jail. Free my boy Young Thug. Still in jail. I bring this up just because I'm a fan of Young Thug. So he got charged with RICO, which is the same thing they got what's his name? Pretty Boy Nelson. The guy from these gangsters. So when you can't catch a gangster back in the day and he's too good, they get him with financial things. So they come up with this thing called the RICO law, where they gather all this stuff, and it's related to money. But basically, when they get you with a RICO case, you're screwed. You can't really get out of it. And they usually do it with people with organized crime. They did the same thing to Tekashi 6ix9ine a few years ago. He got charged with the RICO thing because he was doing like gang activity. And so that's the big accusation, is that Young Thug was doing gang activity, like actual organized crime stuff. And let's pull it up. Let's see. I've got an article on CNN here where he said, oh, apparently he tortured someone. Oh, I didn't know that part. I thought it was like drugs and money. Well, now I don't know if I want to support him that much. Dang, that's not good. He's 32. Anyways, he's being held in jail, and he's all fat now because in jail you have food like when you're in high school. It's really bad food. And, well, I didn't know he tortured someone. Dang. Well, maybe he should stay. I don't know. I'm a fan of his music, but if he actually tortured someone, that's crazy. Oh, here we go. He's accused of murder, armed robbery, and drug sales. So let's see. He's probably going to be in there for a while. Yeah, he's looking chunky in this picture. So now he's being tortured. I guess I don't believe in the eye for an eye kind of thing, but let's move on. There's one more thing I want to talk about. Ooh, this is my favorite thing. Okay, the Pathfinder 1. So I think it's Virgin Galactic. I don't know who made it. I thought it was Virgin Galactic. Pathfinder TechCrunch. There we go. Okay. Oh, I thought it was Virgin Galactic. It's LTA Research. That's the company, I guess. But basically, they're developing a new plane thing. It looks like a blimp, but it uses helium, I think. Hold on. Okay, so there's a famous blimp during like World War II era called the Hindenburg. You can look it up. It's very famous. It was using hydrogen to lift it. It was a blimp. And hydrogen is super flammable. So, of course, something happened and it blew up. And there's old film footage of it crashing. It's really, really epic, actually. But this new one does not use hydrogen. It uses helium. So we're all about technology here. This thing is huge. I don't remember what the point of it is, though. It's an airship. It's supposed to be electric motors, LiDAR sensing. I don't know if it's supposed to be like a satellite or if it's actually going to transport actual stuff, but it's the biggest aircraft in almost a century. This thing is, I think it's at least twice as big as a jet airliner, like a big plane, you know, like when you fly somewhere. Wow. It's nylon material on the outside. 10,000 carbon fiber reinforced tubes. 3,000 titanium hubs form a protective skeleton. Ooh, this is cool. So the point of it is they want to, they have a Kickstarter somehow, but it's already built, so they must have some kind of corporate backing. Here it is. It's no longer than 3 Boeing 737s, the jetliners. So it can fly in the real world. They're about to launch it from Ohio. Okay. Put their paces. Because I know Facebook had something like this. I don't know why these random companies are making stuff that flies like that. It's here, it says the innovations and technologies that we're about to demonstrate have the potential to lay the foundation for a new industry. But what industry? Because the one that Facebook was doing, that was actually going to bring internet to people. Now, of course, Elon Musk's Starlink satellite is already doing that, but the point of the Facebook plane was to do internet to like poor countries that can't have regular internet. But what is the point of this? I can't seem to find it in the article. It just talks about it. Lots of engineers. It just says sophisticated technology. Back to the Future. Oh, air taxis and stuff like that. I guess. I don't know if I would ride on a blimp. Oh, that's disappointing. I thought it was like something more interesting than just air taxis and stuff like that. Because the blimp isn't super fast. You're better off on like one of those high-speed rails. They're actually about to build one in our state, which is super exciting. But yeah. Well, that's the end of my topics. Thanks for listening or watching, even though I'm probably just going to have like our thumbnail as the video. So thanks for listening. I'm still trying to put this podcast on other things like Spotify and Apple Music or whatever. But it's on YouTube, so everybody should be able to get it on YouTube. Once I do, I'll have links to it for just the audio if you don't want to listen to the YouTube thing. But yeah, thanks for listening. This is the Temporary Space Show podcast, the official podcast for Temporary Space Studios. I'm your host, Jim Lettuce. And if you want to support us, hit like and subscribe. Please check out our streaming service at TemporarySpaceStudios.com. Check out our merch store at lettucewearclothing.com. We got a new hoodie coming on there pretty soon. Check out the Netflix podcast, which is not exactly related to this company, but it's a thing I do with my buddy Miles. That is called What's New to Netflix. You can search it on... That podcast is actually available on everything. You know, especially Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all that stuff. And, yeah. Thanks for listening. I should be back next month. We'll see what happens. Drive safe and shit.